I want Monica Crowley and Kirsten Powers to join me now. They've been standing by and waiting to comment on some of these. The first question he was asked by the Republican, Bob Goodlatte, Republican from Virginia, was, how about the interrogation of the Boston bombing suspect? And he said, you know, I really do think we need to extend the public safety exception and that we should work with Congress to do that. That's what Eric Holder said. Well, that is what he said a couple of years ago on Meet the Press, in the wake of a terror suspect getting arrested for the underwear bombing attempt over Detroit. He never did it. He never did it. There was never any follow-up. So now he does. Now, once again, an interrogation of a terror suspect gets shut down prematurely. That's the word of the FBI. And once again, we have Eric Holder saying, well, I really think we should work to expand this exception. Now, there are questions about whether that can even be done by Congress. Is that constitutional and so on? But here he is again, Monica, like, yes, I'd love to do that, but then nothing ever gets done.
Right, and the operative word there, Megyn, is but. We do know from this administration, this president, this attorney general and secretary of state and on down, anytime they are really interested in accomplishing something, say socialized medicine, they move pretty fast to get it done. So you can tell where his priorities are in this case. And by the way, legally, there was nothing stopping them from actually extending the amount of time that Mr. Tsarnaev was going to be questioned and held and detained. There was no rush. There was nothing legally that was encouraging them to move in and give him his Miranda rights. So all of this technical talk and jargon that Eric Holder is engaged in now, it's all sort of meaningless, isn't it?
And now on the second question that he got asked by the Republican Goodlatte, Kirsten, he was asked about the Associated Press and the fact that the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia went before a judge, we think, or a grand jury, in May, I think, of last year, and got a subpoena for 2 months' worth of phone records of Associated Press reporters. We're told up to 100 reporters would have fallen within the scope. Home phones, cell phones. And so Eric Holder's deputies have been poring over those records at the same time Associated Press reporters were reporting on them, on the DOJ and others in the administration. And they never told the Associated Press because they claim there's an exception to the rule requiring notice when national security is at stake. The Attorney General seems to be going with, wasn't me, I recused myself, can't help you out on that.
Yeah. Well, this is sort of the problem. He, I guess, because he's recused, can't speak about this. He also was asked how many other reporters, outside of the AP has this happened to, and he didn't know the answer to that. So,
sorry, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, that seems like the type of thing that should be so rare, frankly, that you would have a number in your head of how often that's happening. This is just incredibly chilling behavior by the government, and it's meant to keep whistleblowers from talking to reporters, bottom line. I mean, and he said that when he came out and talked about the fact this was such a serious leak, it had to be investigated. Read between the lines. The point is, no whistleblower is going to want to call the AP or do the math, pretty much any reporter at this point, because the government may be tracking it.
And yet, Monica, we've had, many people defending the government's right, for years. We saw this under the Bush administration, to probe leaks that endanger national security. This guy, Holder, yesterday said this is one of the worst he's seen in his entire career, this leak. He really thought American lives were put at risk by it.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, Megyn, when you look at the 8 years of the Bush counterterrorism policies, I don't remember the same outrage coming from Eric Holder and the left when there were countless leaks splashed all over the front pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post and USA Today on rendition, interrogation, black sites, and the rest. They were all luxuriating in those leaks. But look, when Eric Holder, Megyn, says that this is like the worst leak of all time, the worst leak he has seen in 40 years of public service, well, then it raises the question, did he raise that with the president? Did he raise it with the president? And did the president then say, well, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I mean, the president claims he learned about it on the news, like he learned about the IRS investigation. That's what he claims. Well, we got a hard break. Stand by. Okay. Pick it up after.